Disney Marathon Weekend isn't just a marathon. It's 4 days, 4 alarms before 3 a.m. If you're doing the Dopey challenge, 40,000 steps, character stops, costume changes, Florida humidity, thousands of runners, and memories you'll never forget. But here's the problem. Most runners prepare for Disney exactly like they'd prepare for Chicago or New York or Philly. And that's exactly why so many cross that finish line exhausted, injured, or wondering why race weekend felt so much harder than they expected. Today, Coach Whitney and I are going to show you how to train the right way. There are really two types of Disney marathon finishers. The first is someone finishing smiling. They take pictures with Mickey, Goofy, Dopey afterward. They walk around Epcot. They celebrate every mile. The second runner, they're limping back to the hotel. Their feet hurt, their hips hurt, their knees hurt, and they're wondering what happened. Here's the crazy part. Those two runners have trained exactly the same number of miles. The difference wasn't fitness. The difference was how they trained. And today, we're going to show you exactly what separates those two runners. And if this is our first time meeting, welcome. My name is Dr. Dwayne Scotti. I'm a running physical therapist, running coach, and founder of Spark Healthy Runner, where our mission is to help you stay healthy and run stronger for life. I'm also a two-time Dopey Challenge finisher, and over the past several years, I've had the privilege of helping dozens of runners successfully prepare for Disney Marathon Weekend. But here's what I'm most proud about. It's not just helping runners be able to get to that finish line. It's helping them actually cross that finish line healthy enough to enjoy the parks afterward, recover well, and keep running for years to come instead of spending the next several months dealing with an injury. And that's exactly why I'm excited to have Coach Whitney here with me today. Whitney is an avid marathoner herself and has coached dozens of runners through marathons and Disney Marathon Weekend, from first-time marathoners all the way through Dopey Challenge finishers. Whitney, let's start with the biggest misconception that you see.
So honestly, the biggest misconception that I see is most runners think of Disney Weekend as just another marathon, but it isn't. It's an endurance event that's really disguised as a vacation.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would say that sums it up pretty well there. It's not just a marathon, it's an energy management event, right? You aren't managing one race, you're managing an entire weekend, even if you're not running the Dopey Challenge. And let's say you're just running the marathon. I say just running the marathon. And, how we really think about this is like we have to manage our energy throughout this weekend, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like you said, it's not just the marathon, it's everything else that weekend. You're in Disney, the happiest place on earth. Like you want to enjoy everything. So, yeah.
Yeah. So when we're looking at kind of managing, right, that energy throughout the weekend, what I know we've talked about this before, where it's almost like, your battery's only got like so much energy, right? And if you drain that thing before the race actually starts, like you're going to be in some trouble.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I like to think of it, like you said, like as a battery. We start with 100%. You've just unplugged your phone, right? You're at 100%, but you're going to be walking around, let's say the expo. That drops your battery to 95%. Then you're standing in the start corrals in the morning, you're down to 90. Poor sleep each night, 80%. Then you're in Disney, so you want to be out at night. Say you're out till 10 o'clock. Now you're down to 65%. You're excited because it's Disney. You start out too fast in your first race. Now you've dropped your battery to 45%. Mile 18 of the marathon hits, you're down to 10%. So the runners that finish strong aren't necessarily the fittest runners that we coach or that we see. They're simply the ones that have protected their battery the best throughout the entire weekend. Yeah, you got to conserve that battery. Don't waste it.
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely love that because, like, we all spend like months, right? Like training our legs to be able to like finish the distance, but we never really think about kind of training like and managing the energy. And I remember working with a runner who will remain unnamed, who absolutely like crushed their training. They crushed every long run, and like fitness wasn't the issue. Like I had no qualms about this person being able to finish their marathon, right? But she arrived at Disney, walked the parks all afternoon, slept 4 hours, and started too aggressively. And by mile 10, she said, it's like my legs weren't a part of my body. And like this wasn't a fitness issue, it was an energy issue. And like, has that ever happened to you guys at a race before? Like, were you already exhausted because you actually tapped out of your energy reserves before the race even started? I know it's happened to me before. Let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, let me know which Disney race you're actually signed up for. This year, I'm signed up for Goofy. After doing 2 Dopies, I'm only doing the 2 days now. It's only
Oh
too
my.
early 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. wake ups. But let me know what race that you're signed up for. And as we kind of think about, conserving this energy, I think there are some common mistakes, right, that we see with Disney runners. So Whitney and I kind of came up with kind of 5 biggest Disney training mistakes. And mistake number 1 is, you're thinking like, I train for miles instead of time on my feet. And Disney doesn't care how many miles you've run, it cares how many hours you've been moving. And between the race, walking to transportation, walking through the parks, standing in corrals, many runners accumulate over 40,000 steps like each day that they're in Disney for marathon weekend. And that's why we often prescribe long runs based on time instead of distance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The mileage that we run throughout the week, throughout the months, tells us how far we've run, but it doesn't really tell us how long in time that we've been running. So I like to have my runners focus more on time on feet, especially training for the Disney weekend, which is a fun lot of miles, a lot of time on your feet. Like you said, between all of the things, it's more important to get used to running based on time versus distance. So I'm going to do a long run of 2 hours instead of 12 miles so that my body doesn't really care about the distance. It cares about the time that I'm spending on my feet. So it's especially important for marathon weekend in Disney because you're not just doing my run, I finish, I recover. You're waking up early, you're in the corrals, then you run, then you have to walk to the transportation, and then you're going to walk around the parks, and then you repeat again. And then you repeat again, right? For as many days as you're running or participating in the Disney events, training time on feet versus mileage is going to be crucial. It's going to help your body to adapt to the entire Disney experience versus just the races. And the goal isn't just to finish each race, go back to the hotel and like chill all day. No, you want to experience Disney. So you want to still feel strong enough to enjoy every magical mile on the course, but also throughout the park and the restaurants and all the Disney vibes throughout the weekend.
Yeah, as Disney runners, I think, approaching it almost like how trail runners look at their training. A lot of people who run trails and they do ultras, they train with kind of time on feet, we call it, as opposed to saying like, I have to run 20 miles, I have to run 18 miles, I have to run 16 miles, right, as part of marathon training. I think of that because, yeah, like you guys know, like I'm sure that most likely if you're signed up for Disney, you've probably been to Disney once or twice before at least. Or if you're like me, you go pretty much every year, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. But there is a lot of walking in Disney. Like things are not close, whether you're parking or you're walking from the buses just to like get into the park. It's like you've already pretty much walk the mile, right? And think about all the time that you're spending walking throughout the parks themselves, or if you're in the countries in Epcot and now you're walking out of the park, right? Like think about how long that walk takes you. So yeah, time on feet, you're spending a lot of time on feet, and it makes sense to think about that from like a training standpoint and a training perspective, especially if you have more of a desk job and you're spending most of your time sitting at a desk. I was actually curious to see like what my steps were. So I actually looked at my little tracker on my, Apple Health, and yeah, like pretty much I have right now a pretty sedentary job where I spend the majority of my time, creating content, working with athletes in front of my computer. I do transition to standing and sitting throughout my day, but it's pretty sedentary. I'm not walking around a whole lot. So even with my running that I get in every morning, my steps are like 14,000, 15,000, right? 16,000. Yeah, like I said, when you're in Disney, like your steps could be 30,000, 40,000 steps per day. So if you're not used to that time on feet, we have to think of that in terms of like training. So what is mistake number 2?
So mistake number 2 is I only practiced one long run. And we're not talking one long run in your entire training cycle. We're talking per week, essentially. We like to train back-to-back long runs, which does a few things. One, you're getting used to training on tired legs, running all those Disney races. Like you said, if you're doing the Dopey challenge, that's 4 days of races. So you're back to back to back to back running and doing the parks. That's a lot. So doing back to back long runs is essentially what it sounds like, back to back days doing long runs. So for example, you could do on Saturday like a 16 miler and then Sunday a 10 miler, something like that, or a 3-hour long run and then the next day do an hour to an hour and a half long run, something like that, so that your body gets used to running while you're tired, because you're going to be doing all of those races back to back. Your body needs to build that endurance. It needs to get used to running on tired legs. And that also gives you the chance to not only experience the fatigue that will set in at some point over marathon weekend, but it also allows you to practice your back to back fueling. So preparing for your pre-run nutrition for all of those days, preparing for your during run nutrition, your post run nutrition, the recovery parts of it. It gives you a chance to kind of practice all of that, doing those 2 long runs back to back. Running on tired legs is like going to be a game changer for you, because you're mentally going to be prepared, especially if you're doing the marathon as your last race of the weekend, or if you're just doing the marathon, you've still walked around all weekend, right? Your legs are going to be tired. It's going to mentally prepare you for that feeling, for that sensation, and for the mind tricks that your brain is going to be like, I'm done. Why are we still running? What is happening? You're going to have done this in training throughout your cycle. So you're going to be prepared to kick those voices and just keep going, knowing that you're not injured, you're just tired, and you finish your last race and you're in Disney, you just ran a marathon or whatever distance. Now you get to go and enjoy the park and celebrate. It's super important to do those back-to-back long runs. Another thing that I recommend is practicing your fuel, right? You want to make sure that your body is used to all those early morning fueling sessions you're not typically doing. Maybe you are if you're training in the summer months. You have to get up super early because it's so hot, but your body's used to getting up early. Your body's used to fueling before your run, fueling during your run, all of that. We talk a lot as running coaches about glycogen, our glycogen stores, our glycogen depletion. An easy way to explain it to somebody who really doesn't know anything about it or is kind of new to the running world is thinking about it as like the gas tank in your car, right? We don't want to start a road trip or marathon weekend on an empty tank of gas or a half tank of gas. We want to make sure that our gas tank is all the way on full, right? So you want to make sure that you're eating enough carbohydrates that your body is able to store that fuel and that energy for you to use it during your races. You also want to make sure that you're not running out of energy. So practicing your during run fuel, and even during that 5K, you might decide that it makes sense because I'm going to be out there long enough to fuel during your race. So practicing that during those back-to-back long runs is going to be essential. I think those are my two biggest things. And, making sure that you know what you're about to experience by practicing it.
Yeah, these back-to-back long runs, honestly, were key for me the first time I trained for Dopey. And that was the first time I ever did that in training. That was pretty much my fourth or fifth marathon, probably my fourth ever marathon when I trained for Dopey the first time around. And that was something completely new where I was going through marathon training cycle and it was like, hey, my peak long run wasn't even 20 miles. Like I was actually able to be prepared to actually run that challenge and actually come within a couple of minutes of my marathon PR, which I still think is like crazy after, doing the half the day before and just all of that, 4 days of running and time on feet those days. But it was like critical to do an 18 miler with, I think probably my peak was probably like 18 and 12 the next day, because it is really the accumulation of that fatigue and running longer on tired legs. And I see so many that, number one, have the misconception that they can't run back-to-back days at all because their body can't handle that. You have to do this in training. And that's why you start out, you don't just come out of the woodworks and, run 18 and then 12. You got used to actually running a 5 miler followed by a 4 miler the next day, right? And then an 8 miler followed by 6, right? Like as you progressed in your training, so you've allowed your body to adapt to those demands. So that was like super critical for if you're running Dopey, you need to train utilizing a run after a long run. And, we do like to prioritize like the longest one, have that be the first run, just so it's not so demanding for you to get through that long run. It's like a slugfest. And, it's really like mentally, it's almost doing more damage than good because you just feel so terrible on it. So you kind of have the longer run first. And then the next day we like to program the kind of medium long run, if you will. And like, if you're doing Dopey, you have to train like that. That's like essential, because that's literally the event you're doing. You're going to run a 13.1 miles. The next day, you're running 26.2. So your legs are not going to feel fresh heading to that marathon start line. The other way that I love to program these kind of back-to-back long runs that you're talking about is for our back of the pack runners, right? So like if you're running, let's say a 15-minute pace, even if you're utilizing a run walk strategy, coming from running physical therapist standpoint, like our injury risk profile increases exponentially anytime that we're actually running more than 3.5 hours. So let's just say like your average pace is a 15-minute per mile pace, right? It's going to take you literally 5 hours to run a 20-mile long run. And this is where, like, personally, and just seeing all the injured runners that I've seen, like training for events like Dizzy Marathon, is where I differ a little bit from, like, no disrespect to the late, great Jeff Galloway, friend of the show, had him on, met him many times in Disney. Such a tragic loss, his recent passing, but he's such an inspiration. Love the guy. But I'm just going to differ in terms of like the Galloway training plan. Like if you've seen that on the Run Disney website, you will see that, pretty much recommend like everyone does a 20 or even 22 or 23 miler. I definitely disagree with that from just that standpoint of being on your feet for 4, 5, 6 hours. Some people is a tremendous toll on your musculoskeletal system, your tendons, your joints, your muscles, and they don't recover from that type of effort. And I think the main philosophy is really to kind of train the mind, and you're able to get through that. So then like you head to race day and you're like, okay, I'm able to actually finish this, right? But Man, the benefit to risk ratio in my mind is just not equal whatsoever. So it really, that's the other scenario. So not even if you're running Dopey, if you're running the marathon itself and you are back of the packer, right? And you are running this race, you will finish this race. It is like super important for you to think about this kind of back-to-back long run training, so you get used to actually completing long runs on tired legs. And now we take those 2 days and we combine it. It's like the same as if you did one really long run, but you've now decreased your injury risk profile. So I think it's going to really help you be able to get to that start line healthy, so you feel confident, so you're not getting to the start line looking like, you know, you're in a MASH unit and like you got KT tape everywhere on all your knees and, you know, all your tendons. And I've used that for many of our back-to-back marathoners to feel confident and ready, even if they don't run 20 miles, even if they don't even run 18 miles. Like, you can actually stimulate that same level of fatigue by running like 16 and 12 or 16 and 14. I've done for some athletes. So this, yeah, I think this is a really important point. And for those to consider whether they are doing Dopey, you definitely should be considering this. Or if you're a back of the packer and it is just going to take you, you know, a tremendous amount of time. And honestly, who wants to actually do a long training run for like 5 hours on their own? Like, I don't know anyone who wants to do that, right? Or 6 hours. So yeah, they're just not fun at all. So yeah, this is, I think, a great point. What's mistake number 3 that you have for us?
So mistake number 3 is I expected to feel fresh. So this kind of goes along with mistake number 2. You expect to feel fresh. Let's be honest, you're doing 4 races, 2 races, even just 1 race at Disney after walking around the park, waiting in lines, start corrals, all of the things. You probably had to fly there because most of us don't live near Disney, right? Travel, all of the things. You can't expect to feel fresh. So one of the biggest things that we've learned from some of our runners is that you need to be prepared to not start feeling your best. Each day you're carrying a little bit of that fatigue that you accumulated from the day before. We call this cumulative fatigue. Makes sense, right? It's a tiredness that just builds up over time. And that's why training for the Disney races or the Dopey challenge, whatever challenge you're doing, or just the marathon, it's not just about being able to run a 5K, a 10K, a half, a full. It's about being able to do those things along with everything else that goes along with the weekend, right? So the goal is to train a little bit so you learn the difference between being tired and sore versus being injured. So you go and you do a speed workout or a long run. The next day, even if it's like a 2-mile easy run, your legs are probably feeling a little bit tired during training, right? That's what we're talking about, that tired feeling that you have after a long or a hard workout run. That's okay. When we start to feel that pain is not okay, we want to be prepared to not feel our best on race day, not being injured, but feeling tired, maybe a little bit sore in a good way, right? So we kind of want to teach you how to prepare for that during training. And that's essentially doing those back-to-back long runs is going to help with that. That it's going to teach your mind that, oh no, this is okay. I'm not injured. And I don't know, maybe Dwayne, you can explain a little bit about our traffic light that we like to use, the green, yellow, and red traffic light example for being injured versus just being tired and sore.
Oh, I love the traffic light, right? It's like so simple. Green means go, red means stop. So green is like, yeah, when you're getting that soreness, maybe you feel stiff, maybe you even have, I would say, some discomfort. Maybe it's like a 1 or a 2, or maybe even a 3 out of 10. Maybe in your Achilles or your hamstring just doesn't feel right, or your hip flexor doesn't feel right as you start running first couple miles. If it's that low level pain, it kind of goes away. green means go. Like, don't modify your run. Like, continue with the plan, continue with your training. Those things happen during marathon training or dopey training. So yeah, every run doesn't feel great. Those are the types of runs I'll like comment in Final Surge for our athletes of like, you know what, you got through it. Done is done. It didn't feel great. We all have these runs. You just like pretend you're Dory, right? Short-term memory loss, and you just like forget about it. Just keep running, right? Just keep swimming. Let's move forward. Red is like, hey, we're going to be stopping because you have sharp pain. You have swelling in your joint. Your ankle is swollen. Your knee is swollen. You have pain that is causing you to limp. You're changing your running pattern, your running form. You're having pain when you're walking, right? Like there's something more serious going on here. So that is like, yes, we're not going to run through this. Let's get this checked out by a medical professional and see what's going on here. And even if, like, let's say that was the scenario, a red light might only be a 1 day or 2 day event. Also, don't take like a red light and be like, I got to take a week or two off of running and then I'm going to get back into it. So sometimes I've seen folks where they are in that red light situation, but it only is for a day or two. And then, things settle down and you can kind of resume training. Yellow is right, that gray zone. It's in the middle. This is your body's like warning sign that, you might need to modify what you have planned for the day, where your pain is not only in the beginning of the run, but it's lasting. It's becoming more consistent. It's not just one run. It's been a couple of runs now. And you're starting to change your stride. You're starting to like compensate, right? Or maybe it gets worse like after the run's over and it's lasting hours. And like I said, this is lasting a couple of days now. It's kind of not getting better. Then yes, this is the yellow light situation where we need to modify training. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to stop all running, and especially doesn't mean that you should be stopping for a week or two and going to that extreme level because that's where runners make a lot of mistakes in that. And, you feel some pain, you're like, oh, maybe I'll just take off 2 weeks. And then you try to get back in training and then the pain just comes back. So yeah, that's what we're talking about in terms of like, just making sure to differentiate, okay, I have pain, I have an injury versus, hey, my legs are just not feeling good during this training cycle because like you're accumulating fatigue. They're not going to feel great. They're not going to feel fresh, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'll be honest, probably that first day that you run in Disney, you're going to feel okay starting. That second day, the third day, the fourth day, you're going to have tired legs. You're going to have some soreness. It's just part of running that many miles consecutively over the weekend, walking through the parks, all of that. So expect that. We're not saying like, don't do it. Just be aware and be mentally prepared that if I feel that tiredness, that soreness, I'm good. I'm good. Let's go. Let's do it. Like Disney all the way. Yeah.
You wouldn't train in leather boots or race in stiff plastic clogs, but the insoles and custom orthotics you're getting at the running store or clinic are just that. From someone who ran in custom foot orthotics that were rigid for 10 years, I know how they can feel clunky in performance running shoes, if they even fit at all. And over time, they're going to lead to restricted natural foot motion and weakening of your muscles in the long run. See what I did there? Seriously, as a running physical therapist and coach, I strongly believe in natural foot motion, and foot and ankle strength are essential keys that we want as runners if we want to run for life. And Killa is the first company to make a custom insole using super shoe foam technology. Killas are designed and built around your unique feet using 3D nano PIBA technology. They're flexible, lightweight, and insanely comfortable. The fix that your foot doctor recommends, but without the compromises, only performance gains. You can get Killa's custom footbeds right now while listening to this, even if you're on your couch. I ordered on their site, scanned my feet in my living room using my iPhone. It took less than 5 minutes and they shipped straight to my door. So super easy. Anyone can do this. They use a sports podiatry lab to design your insoles and they build them from scratch in California. I got to say, these can be a game changer for someone who has tried many different over-the-counter options in the past, whether it was Superfeet, Curex, Killas is more flexible. They're ultra lightweight option, especially if you're really looking to optimize your performance-based lightweight running shoe while also providing a mild level of support to your foot to aid in some stability needs. If you've been working on your foot and ankle strength like I have, and you're looking for a more dynamic insert meant for running, I highly recommend that you give Killas a try. The best part, there's no clinic markup. You get a full custom insert at a fraction of the cost when you order directly on their site. Visit killarun.com and use code HEALTHYRUNNER for $50 off your first order. That's KILA run.com. All right. So not feeling fresh was mistake number 3, or not knowing that you're not going to feel fresh. What's mistake number 4?
I never practiced race weekend. This is huge. And this, yes, it's specific for Disney, but this is really any race that you're doing, you need to practice. But because of the nature of Disney race weekend and the excitement and the fun and the energy and all of the races, especially if you're doing Dopey, right? You need to practice. And we tell our runners, we're always going to practice. You always want to, do a few long runs in the shirt, in the shoes, in the hat, in the kit that you're wearing, with the gels, with the fuel, all of that. But for Disney weekend, it's even more important to practice because you need to practice setting those, like Dwayne said, 2:30 in the morning alarms. I'll be honest, right now in Arizona, it's summer and it's hot. My earliest alarm is 3 for long runs. So 2:30 is like mind blowing to me. So prepare for that and practice that on your back-to-back long runs. Like, so that when race day comes, you're not like totally zonked at 2:30 in the morning. Practice that. But you want to practice your alarms. You want to practice running while a little tired, which goes along with setting those early alarms because you're going to be sleepy. You're fueling, like I said, practicing your gels, your chews, the hydration you're going to use. If you're carrying your own hydration in a handheld, whatever it is, great. You need to practice that during long runs anyways. If you're going to use what's on course, practice that, buy it, use it during training. You want to also practice, it's kind of hard to mimic crowds during training, but adjusting your pace as though you're in that start corral, you're in that first mile or 2 miles where it is crowded. You might have walkers in front of you. You might have those people that don't really know race etiquette and run like, or walk 2, 3, 4, 5 people wide that don't really understand, like, you can do that later on, but let's not start the race like that. So adjusting your pace throughout your run in training to kind of mimic what the start of the race is going to be important. It's Disney. You're most likely wearing a costume because it's Disney. Practice that. You might feel a little silly running through your neighborhood in a costume dressed as Tigger, but try it because you don't know what you don't know. If that makes sense. You don't know where it's going to rub. You don't know where you're going to need to put that extra squirrel's nut butter on race day. You don't know if the headband that you're wearing is going to hurt behind your ears and give you a headache. So maybe you need to buy a hat instead. Practicing all of these things. Practicing bathroom stops because you're wearing a costume. Make loops back to your house or to a gas station or porta potty on your route so you can practice taking off your pants and getting them back on when you're all sweaty. So you're not wasting time. Practice that walk afterwards. Stop your run half mile from your house or your car and practice that walking through the finish chute, getting your medal, the pictures. Practice all of that. Race day should not be the first time you've done all of these things because that's just going to end badly. And, we always say nothing new on race day, right? The only thing I will recommend for a new thing to try on race day, it's not even trying, is extra squirrel's nut butter or Body Glide or Vaseline, whatever you use and like, extra everywhere. Places you wouldn't even think of, like maybe the back of your Achilles, like where your shoe might rub, under your arm. If you're wearing a tutu, put it on your forearms because inevitably it's going to be hot and humid, more so than what you're used to. Your arm rubbing on that tutu for 20 miles, it's going to chafe. So put nut butter there. All of these little spots that you don't normally think of, right? A little extra goes a long way. It's going to be fantastic. Now, Disney races are like I said, busy, these most likely are not going to be races you're going to set out to PR. You're going to, I don't want to say be stuck in the start area, stuck behind people, but it is a very crowded, narrow start to the race where, a couple miles in, it kind of opens up a little bit. People find their paces and you have a little more room to run, but don't go into any of these races expecting to hit that PR. Now, I know Dwayne got really close, but that's an anomaly. And he's just like Superman or Mr. Incredible, I guess, for doing this, right?
Maybe that'll be my next costume.
Shut it.
The Incredibles.
Yeah, right? The little baby's the fast one, right? No, he's the fire. The boy is the fast one. Yeah. But yeah, you need to be able to accept that you're going to be a little bit slower starting. But practice. I've done many runs. I've not myself personally done any of the Disney races, but I do wear a tutu when I run Flying Pig. And I will tell you, it does feel ridiculous to run through your neighborhood wearing a bright pink tutu at 5:00 in the morning. But come race day, I know that my tutu, because of the material around the waistband, it's like silky and it rides up like crazy on my leggings. So I use those giant safety pins and I just pin it in 2 spots. Then I can still take my pants down if I need to use a bathroom or whatever, but it doesn't ride up. You wouldn't know that though if you didn't try it during training. So try everything, everything that you might use or want on race day. Practice.
So this is where it's just great having you on for this, because I would have definitely never given the tutu tip. Because I have not run in a tutu before, so I wouldn't know that would like chafe. But I think
like I wear my pig ear headbands, and those I have multiple sets because I keep losing them in my house and then finding them later. But some of them hurt behind my ears because they're tighter. But wearing it with like wearing a hat, like a baseball hat or a running hat, and then putting it on for some reason makes it not hurt. I don't even know how to explain that, but I practiced that. I tried the ears and I knew that they were going to hurt. And so the next time I went for a long run, I said, you know what, let me put a hat on. It was going to be really sunny. So I wasn't really thinking in terms of fixing the ears, but it was like magic and it fixed the problem behind my ears. So try everything, even if you're going to feel silly.
Yeah, that was like last year. I did Pluto costume, and my wife actually made me a really nice like hat with the eyeballs on it and the ears. Initially, the ears, like when I was running, came in front and it was like blocking my vision. So we had to like place strategically the ears like further back so they wouldn't go like flying in front of my eyes. Cause doing that for the half marathon, like I wouldn't be able to deal with like not being able to see. And you're practicing. Yeah. Practicing is key. And what makes this race tough in particular is that it is during cold weather months. So if you're coming from a cold weather, region of the country, you might need to like practice these things on a treadmill. Maybe hopefully you have one at home and not at your gym, because people probably look at you a little strange if you have like Tinkerbell, costume on running in a treadmill in the gym. But it can be tough because the half marathon and marathon, you definitely want to, and I didn't think about this the first year that we ran the challenge. My whole family did it. And I didn't think about weather with the costumes. We just thought about costumes like, okay, let's theme it out. First day was like Toy Story theme for the 4 of us. And we didn't think about the weather. So like that day for like both of my girls, they had like these little skimpy tank tops. One was Buzz, one was Woody. And for the 5K, especially for the 5K, it is usually like that's the day to wear your like warmer costume, or if you're going to wear pants or you're going to wear long sleeves. Last year on the half marathon in particular that I just mentioned, where it was Pluto, I even pulled like a little audible and changed. I was going to wear a t-shirt, but it was very hot, very humid, high dew point on that day. I wound up like doing a little audible and having a black tank top that was like more, airy. So I could wick away more sweat. And I saw people on that course wearing long sleeves, wearing pants, because like that's the costume they planned. So definitely think about like half marathon, you want to think about like, has there been years where it has been chilly? Has there been years that it's been cold to start? Yes. The likelihood is that it is going to eventually get warmer, and you're out there for so much longer, so you can kind of overheat. So you want to plan on more of your summer or typical race gear costumes versus the bigger costumes that are like, yeah, you're in like a full-blown like suit, zip up, where it just traps all the heat in, because that will make for a really long day. Save those for like the 5K, because you can get away with those for the 5K. So save those like really cool costumes for that 5K day.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're somebody like me who it's always hot where I run, and I am always cold. I hate being cold. I hate it. Arm sleeves, because you can take them off. You can buy cheap ones on Amazon in different colors that match your costume. So at the start of the race, you can wear your arm sleeves, and like 2 miles in, when you like start to sweat buckets, you can take them off and chuck them.
Yeah.
It's an option.
Before we go any further, if you've been feeling stuck, frustrated with nagging injuries, or even starting to wonder if your best running is behind you, I want you to hear this. This is a real runner who was in the exact place, and what happened when they followed a structured plan with the right support. Take a listen.
I started running at 43 years old. I did it because I wanted to join my wife running the Disney races, so the various challenges. She'd gotten into that the year before, and I wanted to join her in those. When I first started running, I set out. There's a 3-mile down and back where I lived. I was running that, and as I tried to get faster and run more so I could complete these races with her, including the half marathon was the most distance I wanted to run at that point in time, I started getting pain in my knee. It had gotten so bad that while I had gotten up to running 8 miles at one point in time, I was down to running 1.5 miles and calling for a ride back home because my knee hurt too badly. That's when I started looking online to figure out what might be going on. The internet told me it probably was ITBS, IT band syndrome. He gave me some exercises and some things to do to help work on that. I did them as best I could, but I found it to be hard to determine for myself what would be the best plan to implement, right? So they were giving me all sorts of exercises, stretches, rest intervals, ways to run better. But unfortunately, I didn't have the knowledge to put that together into a plan, and I felt as it's going too willy-nilly, wasn't making any progress with my knee, almost came to where I couldn't run anymore. So I looked online again, and I found some running coaching options. I came across Spark Healthy Runner, and a different user had done a review where they essentially had a mirrored story to what mine was. And I'm like, okay, if it can help him, it can help me. So I reached out to Coach Dwayne. We set up a call. Long story short, I started training with them. After the 4 months with him, I had gotten back up to running 8 miles. And my wife had decided she wanted to run the Dopey challenge in 2026, this year. So after Coach Dwayne, I then did another session with Coach Kat, and she took me all the way to the marathon, and I completed it. So during my training, they worked with me one-on-one. We went through an evaluation phase with Coach Dwayne, looked at where my weaknesses were, evaluated my running form. He gave me a tailored plan that was specific to me and my needs to get me back into running. He got me a strength training plan, a running plan that started out with walking intervals, run-walk intervals, all the way up to getting to the 8 miles I mentioned. And the strength plan progressed. So every 4, 6, 8 weeks, I can't remember what it was, we progressed to different exercises to help get me stronger and stronger and essentially rehab my knee. Then with Coach Kat, we continued on, and she developed a plan that would allow me to extend my distances and hopefully eventually complete the Dopey challenge. Both of them were very good. They worked around my personal needs, my personal schedule, any flare-ups to my injuries, anything else in my personal life that may come up and cause me to have to move things around or take some time off, vacations, illnesses, whatever. It was very nice to have someone personalize the training plan for me and my specific needs. They were always available to answer any questions. I was able to message them anytime I wanted, set up time on their calendars if I needed to, and get my specific issues or concerns addressed one-on-one, tailored specific for me. As I mentioned earlier, the goal was to do a Dopey challenge, and long story short, I completed it. I was able to complete the Dopey challenge, and even more impressive to me was that the next day I was still able to walk around the Disney parks. I wasn't as spry as a spring chicken, if you will, but I was not hobbling. I was able to walk them, enjoy them, hang out with friends and family, and not be too concerned. So that was the best part about it, is not only did I accomplish my goal of completing the Dopey challenge, but I was able to do it in what I consider to be a very healthy way so that I was still able to enjoy my time after. I do plan to do another coaching session, only this time at Coach Whitney's recommendation, a week with Coach Whitney, because now my wife has the desire to move up in the corral placements at the Disney races, which needs a faster proof of time. And so I'm going to reach out to Coach Whitney and see if she will help me get faster to reach those proof of times. And I bet that in 4 months, I'll be coming back very proud of what happens there as well.
I truly hope that story inspired you and showed you what's actually possible. If you're looking for that level of structure, accountability, and support, you can check out the behind-the-scenes tour of our one-to-one coaching program. Just click the link in the description or scan the QR code. And if one-on-one coaching isn't the right fit right now, but you still want a proven system with guidance and an awesome community, check out the Healthy Runner Academy to help you run stronger, feel confident, and stay injury-free. All right, so let's get to the fifth and final mistake. What is that?
So this one is, I thought recovery would happen after Disney. So no, your recovery is going to happen in between your races. A lot of runners think that the recovery after the Disney Marathon weekend starts when the weekend's over. But especially for Dopey, like those recovery moments are in between the finish line of your current race and the start line of the next race, right? You have just a handful of hours really for your recovery in between. So you don't, like a typical, like you mentioned, Chicago, Philly, New York, you run that race and you're done, right? Your recovery starts right then. You don't have that luxury with the Disney races. So we need to make sure that we're preparing ourselves ahead of time for the recovery aspect, but also in between each races. So for me, the biggest thing is right now in your training, you need to be doing strength training because that is going to help your muscles be strong enough and know how to recover better than somebody that doesn't do any strength training whatsoever. It's going to make the biggest difference. I promise you. And I know you're going to say, oh, I don't have time to marathon train and strength training. You do. You really do. I promise. Like, it is worth it. Do it 100% right now. Get your strength training on your calendar all throughout your training. Then while you're in Disney for the weekend, it is so important. We've talked about fueling, but it is so important to refuel in between these races with your protein, your carbohydrates, your electrolytes, your water. You need to be replacing those glycogen stores. You need to be eating that protein to help with the muscles rebuilding themselves. You need to rehydrate so that you are hydrated enough for the next race, right? And you're in Florida, you're sweating. So you need to replace those electrolytes also. Make sure that you're paying attention to that and how much you're drinking. A lot of times after the race, you're going to go walk around, you're going to go ride the rides, you're going to do all the fun things. You maybe take a water bottle with you, maybe you don't. But even if you do, you're probably not drinking like you normally would be before a race. Make sure you are, even if you have to, like, I know this sounds really silly, but even if you have to set an alarm to be like, drink your water, like every hour to have a certain amount of water, electrolyte drink, do it. I will say post-run, post-race, if you can find yourself chocolate milk, that is my go-to for recovery because the protein and the carbohydrate balance is typically pretty good. and you're hot. So a nice cold chocolate milk is going to be really delicious. And it's just going to kind of jumpstart that refueling process and the recovery. Another thing you can do is bring your compression socks, compression sleeves, wear them around the park after the race. Go home or go back to the hotel, I guess, put your toe splays on while you're showering. They're waterproof. You can wear them in the shower. Then put your compression socks on to walk around the park. It is going to help aid with recovery and blood flow to those muscles down in your legs. It's going to make a world of difference. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, but I'm going to wear shorts. I don't want to look silly. I guarantee you're not going to be the only one walking around in compression socks and shorts. It's for your benefit. Another thing that kind of goes along with the compression socks would be good footwear. Like I mentioned, the toe splays. Yeah, you want to wear those to kind of realign everything in your feet after you run all these miles. But you also want to make sure that while you're walking around Disney, while you're at the expo, while you're at dinner, if you're going to the pool, you want to make sure you have good footwear on that is going to support you. You don't want to be wearing like janky flip-flops from Old Navy. Like, wear good sneakers to walk around the park. Wear your UFOs, slides, or flip-flops if you're going to the pool or walking around the hotel room. Make sure that you're keeping your feet happy and healthy. You can take like a spiky ball with you and you can massage your feet in between the runs. At night before bed, you can foam roll. All of those things are going to kind of help to keep the recovery going, or I guess aid in the recovery. Another thing that most people avoid, maybe not avoid, but let slide when they're in Disney is their sleep. And we all know as runners, right, that sleep is the number one thing that can help with recovery. But you're at Disney. You want to stay up late. You want to see the fireworks. You want to go through the park at night and see all the lights. Yeah, do it. Have fun. Enjoy it because it is the happiest place on earth. But maybe set a limit for yourself. Like, okay, the first night I'm going to leave the park by 7 p.m. That gives me enough time to get back to the hotel to do my unwinding night care routine, whatever that may be. Maybe the next night you can stay out a little bit later. And then that last night after the marathon, that's your night to enjoy the evening nightlife. You need to prioritize sleep because, like Dwayne said, 2:30 in the morning, that doesn't give you a lot of time for sleep. So if you can make sure that you are making sleep a priority before your races, and then you can enjoy the nightlife after they're done. So those things will kind of help with the recovery. And then, yes, once race weekend is officially over, you can focus more on all of the typical recovery things that we do, all of the foam rolling, wearing your leg boots, the massage boots, going to a sauna or a cold plunge, or all those kind of things that you don't really have access to while you're at Disney. You can do those once you get home.
Yeah, no, that's some great points there. You do need to think about managing that recovery. And even if you are, I keep saying this, just running the marathon, or if you're just doing goofy, like I'm doing with the half and the full, the expo in of itself is a whole event, right? Like you are going to be on your feet for a good 2 to 3 hours going to ESPN, Wide World of Sports, going in 3 different buildings, being marched to all these different areas. Like you're going to be logging lots of steps and then trying to make sure you get your hydration in, try to make sure you get your fuel in. Like that day in of itself is like an event. So even if you're just doing right, like the one race or 2 races, it is critical that you think about how can I recover my body so I'm in the best place I need to be when I get to the start line. And like for me, it's like rinse and repeat each day. Like if you're doing Dopey, it was literally the same schedule, right? I had in terms of like you finish your race, you get your medal, you get your pictures, you take your photos, and then I was hopping on the bus back to the resort. Before I even go back to my room, I'm hitting up the food court. I'm going to make sure I get a full meal in. I'm not just eating the box of, Fritos and crackers that they give you that you're eating, in your banana, that you're eating, on the bus. Like I'm going to actually get a full meal in, replenish glycogen stores, right? So get carbs, but then we need protein, like Whitney said, for our muscles to start to rebuild. So I would do that first, and then I would head actually to the gym and actually do a little bit of mobility and foam rolling. So yeah, I'm stimulating some of that recovery, foam rolling. And then I would go back to my room, take a shower, do whatever. And then we would usually, go out and, whether it is we go to a park or we go to Disney Springs. And then that's like, then it's the big meal for that day, within those next couple of hours, where that's your biggest meal. Because let's think about this, guys. If you got to wake up at 2:30, you really should be sleeping definitely before 8. So work your way backwards. Like dinner needs to be at like 4 or 5 o'clock. So you're not eating, right before you go to bed. So your days go pretty quickly, but that's what it usually consists of. Or even before we actually go out, sometimes I'll hit up the hot tub. So I like to do, definitely probably 2 a day sessions in the hot tub, just to relax a little bit. I'll even do a little guided meditation, get my mind nice and calm. And just to really think about that recovery process, because you have to manage that as recovery. If it's your first time ever visiting Disney World, I totally get it. Like you want to experience everything and see all the things. Just realize you're going to have to sacrifice some of your race goals, right? And can't expect to perform your best or get a specific time, right? Or feel the best while you're running. If you are going to all the parks and you're going to be in the park all day long in the heat, walking around and, not really, getting the best hydration, not getting the best electrolytes and all of that. And many of us have like kids and you want to, you're bringing your kids with you. It's a family vacation now and you're running the races. You still want to prioritize your recovery, whether that is you're bringing your water bottles with you, you're bringing your electrolytes to the parks, because it's like it never fails. Or you're bringing your snacks, bring carbs, like bring graham crackers, bring bananas, bring like easily digestible carbs that work for your stomach, because inevitably it's like you start feeling hungry and you're like, oh shoot. We were waiting on this line for this long, and 2 or 3 hours already passed, and you haven't like eaten anything. And now you're trying to find something. It's like, where in the hell is that Mickey pretzel? Right. By the way, that is my favorite like snack for carb loading. Mickey pretzel. It's great. It's clean. It's not like it's just like carbs, salt that you need for electrolytes. That's like definitely a staple for me, like every day in Disney. But like you can't find the cart. Of course, it's like you always pass it. You're like, no, I'm not ready for a pretzel now. And then when you're ready, it's nowhere to be found. So you have to bring a backpack. You got to bring your snacks with you, because that's going to help you recover. And then try to opt for some of those maybe quote unquote boring rides that's like indoors, air conditioned. You're sitting for a while, right? So you want to go to the Hall of Presidents. Like my family hates when I make them go to the Hall of Presidents, right? But I love it. I like history. So I like going to the Hall of Presidents, but like, go in there, take a little snoozer if you want. You're in AC for like 20 minutes. Go in some of those, like, Mickey's Fill Her Magic. Like it's a classic one. Nice little 3D movie, but you're in AC. Do a little bit more of those indoor things and really be mindful of not being in the sun on your feet. The first time I did Dopey, I made the mistake of that the day before the marathon. It did get warmer than we thought it was going to get. And like the sun came out and it was hot. And now I'm like, oh boy, like we've been walking here in Epcot. We wanted to get some pictures with Donald because we just did the half marathon. We had like our 13.1 medals and we want to get pictures with Donald. So Daisy in Epcot. And then before you know it, I was like, whoa, I'm getting like hot overheated. I don't feel like I'm drinking enough water. So it sneaks up on you quick. And then like once you're in the park, you're like in the park, right? Like I said before, it's like 25, 30 minutes to like walk out of these parks. So, you want to plan accordingly because it will affect how you perform the next day if you're not prioritizing recovery. And another bonus kind of hack for recovery that I love, as I mentioned, I like to go to the whirlpool. So if you're going to go like poolside, right, I always like flip the lounge chair. I lie on it opposite direction where the head is. I put it elevated, and that's where my feet go. So I'm getting elevation, right? Getting some blood flow downward, get any fluid downward, especially if it's hot and humid, especially if you tend to pool fluid in your legs, ankles, especially after your flight. You're on a long flight, changes in pressure, right? Your ankle's a little puffy, a little swollen, little cankles going on. Definitely throw your lounge chair up. That's how I always sit at the pool. I know it might look a little weird. People are like, why's that guy like sitting the opposite direction? I'm like, hey man, my feet are feeling good right now. They're elevated above heart level. They're getting some good recovery. So yeah, that's another kind of recovery hack that I love for Disney Marathon weekend. Is it okay if, I know we shared like 5 mistakes, but can I highlight one of the things that you mentioned as like a little we'll call it a bonus mistake?
Absolutely. I love bonuses.
As you approach your Run Disney training, I really want you to think about not just thinking about, I thought just like running would prepare me for this race, right? Especially if you are newer to running and you just signed up because you're like, hey man, this looks freaking fun. Because it is fun. Like, trust me, it is like the most fun you will ever have is Disney Marathon weekend. But maybe, you're like, hey, okay, I run, but I'm not like serious, right? I'm not a real runner, air quotes there, for those who are listening to the audio version. And you're just thinking, I just got to follow this plan. I just got to do these miles. I just got to get the time on feet that we're talking about. And you're like, good to go. But strength training, as Whitney alluded to before, is going to be critical to allow your body to adapt to the demands of the training and that time on feet. And thinking about how much work is going to be on your calf muscles, on your hips, on your glutes. And this is where we need to target those muscles to be durable so they can withstand the forces that happens when we run. And that's why our strength training needs to target those muscles. We call them kind of run specific muscles that are used when we're running, when we're on one leg. So you want to incorporate things like single leg strength into your training. Plyometric activities, because running is a series of hops from one foot to the other. So you want to think about how do you incorporate jump training in a safe manner to allow you to be durable. And this past year, when I finished the Dopey Challenge, it was a quick turnaround for me because I had a goal in running the Philly Marathon. So 6 weeks later, not a lot of weeks there, quick turnaround for Dopey. And what I was most proud about, honestly, when I finished those 4 days was how durable I was, how I wasn't injured. And I saw so many people hobbling around the parks afterwards. It's because I've been consistently strength training for years now. And as I've kind of gotten this kind of marathon era that I'm in right now, I see even more benefit to being a strong, durable runner. And strength and durability is what you need for marathon weekend. So yeah, that's kind of the bonus tip, is just thinking about mistake is just thinking if you do the running, you'll be able to like complete the challenge, complete the weekend, complete the marathon. But you need to strength train in order to run. All right, like we've covered a lot of strategy here, Whitney. Before we kind of wrap up, is there anything else that I've forgotten to mention?
I don't think so. I think we've covered pretty much everything. But before we go, I thought it might be kind of fun if we have a little bit of time. I hope we do. I wanted to do like a really quick Disney lightning round. I'm going to throw some rapid fire questions at you, and then you answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. What do you think?
All right. Yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but let's go for this.
All right. First question, can you PR in a Disney race?
You can. I definitely wouldn't expect you to PR, especially if it's your first run Disney event. Like we said, there's a lot of differences in these types of races. It is very crowded, especially depending upon what corral you're in. I've had the pleasure of being in Corral A last year. So very different experience in Corral A versus D that I've been in before. So, it's not as crowded. And if you are in A or B or you're in the front of your corral, then you certainly could PR. And the only reason I say that, and this is where I think Disney races are just different in any other marathon that I've done, quite frankly, or any other races, is that there's not so much pressure. And we put so much pressure on ourselves as runners. And at Disney, it's like magical. There's character stops every mile. Like there's people in costumes. It's like, it's a freaking show as you're running. So there's so much to look at. You're running through the parks. You're running down Main Street, right? You have all these people cheering on the side down Main Street. You have the castle in front of you. You're like, this is amazing. It's just less pressure. And so I found it very interesting that I've come really close to PRing for a marathon after running those 3 races the day before, from a marathon that I've totally tapered for. And that was my main focus. It was 1 race, 1 marathon. So I think you can PR. I wouldn't expect it though, due to some of the other variables, unless you get to the point where you've done a bunch of Run Disney races now. And like I said, you kind of are getting the ins and outs of it, and you aren't in, an earlier corral, then you certainly could PR, because I do find it quite magical.
All right. Well, you heard it here, guys. It's possible. All right. Next question. Should you wait in the character lines?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. I think it really depends upon how important is that character to you. Me personally, in the middle of a race, even if a race we're just running for fun, I think about, the 10K I did with my wife last year. It was totally fun run. But yeah, we're not going to wait in line for an hour for a character in the 5K or the 10K races. These lines are super long. The marathon, especially in the second half of the marathon, there's hardly any lines. So if you do want some character photos and you're running the marathon, save it, honestly, for the marathon day. And honestly, the marathon, you might need a little break in that second half of the race, where it's kind of good to and you're just waiting. All the stops that I did during both of my marathons in Disney, the longest I waited was 20 seconds. And those were in the second half of the race. So I didn't stop at the first ones where there is probably a 10 or 15 minute line. But it really depends upon how important are these characters to you. This is the fun part about the Disney races. They bring out characters that aren't in the parks normally. So TV characters or characters from 20 years ago. So people who, it's just hey, I really love, some Darkwing Duck, for example, right? I grew up watching that cartoon. It was Darkwing Duck, right? It'd be hey, that's cool. I want a photo with Darkwing Duck, because you're not going to see Darkwing Duck in, the park on any other random day. So they do a nice job of bringing these kind of, random kind of characters, if you will. So if you were so passionate about Darkwing Duck and you're I need to get a photo of Darkwing Duck, then wait online. But don't expect to, I guess, get a really good time in your race if you are going to be stopping for all of the character stops.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty cool that they do that with the different characters that you don't see. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fun fact. All right, next question. Should you walk?
Definitely, if you've practiced training with walking and you're utilizing the run-walk strategy, then yes, absolutely, you should walk. Or if the effort level is just getting too high for you. So we like to utilize the RPE scale, so rating of perceived exertion. So let's say, in the marathon, your effort level is creeping to an 8 out of 10. Take a walk, right? Allow your heart rate to come down a little bit, get your effort level down. I walked the hill leading into Hollywood Studios. That hill's brutal. It's not that long, but it's freaking steep. I walked that hill. There's a couple other shorter, steeper hills that, you can use strategic walk breaks to just bring the effort level down, catch your breath. switch up your legs a little bit. So it all depends. The nice thing about the Disney races, they are very walk friendly. So as long as you maintain that pace in front of the balloon ladies and you finish before them, you will not get swept from the course. So yeah, walk as needed. Like enjoy the sights, right? Take it all in.
Yeah, it's the happiest place on earth. Enjoy it, right? Yeah. All right. Should you bring 2 pairs of shoes?
Definitely if you're running more than one race, or even if not, like I would have a walking in the parks, going to the expo shoes, and then I would have your marathon shoe, right? But if you're running multiple races, like, yeah, you need 2 shoes because I like to go on and off each day. So you think about like having a 5K and a half marathon shoe if you're doing Dopey, and then having a 10K and a marathon shoe. I do think that it helps the shoes kind of rebound a little bit in terms of like maintaining some bounce and pop in the foam, especially in the heat. That can be helpful. So I would definitely say 2 shoes almost regardless if you're not even doing the Dopey challenge, just because you're going to want maybe shoes for like that expo day, or you are going to be walking around Disney Springs for a long period of time or in a park, then yeah, you should have a nice comfy pair of shoes.
All right. Well, if you're like me, you probably have a different pair of shoes for each character outfit that you're going to wear because they have to coordinate. So you probably have 4 or 5 with you, you know. All right. How do you know if you are walking too much?
Man, yeah, like I said, it sneaks up on you how much walking that you're doing. So you just need to be mindful, like, and think about like taking those planned strategic breaks. Strategically try to look at like, hey, where's there a bench nearby that I could just like sit and just get off my feet for a little bit? Because it will sneak up on you. And you want to manage that effort even while you're waiting in the corrals. If you want to pop a squat on the floor, if you're the type person likes to get in the corral super early, like pop a squat, just get off your feet, right? Because you don't want to be standing there just like in a corral for an hour before you even start running. So just be very strategic about it. And yeah, the elevation I mentioned before, I think is super helpful. And just, you're going to be doing more walking than you think that you will be doing.
Okay. Yeah. That seems, yeah, Disney's, there's a lot going on, right? All right. So, what is your favorite park to visit after a race? And do you think we should park hop?
Yeah, wow. I would highly not recommend park hopping after the race. I would highly recommend that like after the races are over. So Marathon Monday, go for your medal picks. The photo pass people are amazing. You'll get some great picks. Like that's the day to go to the park. That's the day to park hop. I know people who like to go to all 4 parks and with all their medals and take their photos. Not during the races. So not definitely on your half marathon day, the day before the marathon, or even on your 10K day, the day before the half marathon. That would not be the time. Because like I said, there's so much walking just to get in and out of these parks. So I would not recommend park hopping. I would pick a park and that is your park that you're doing for that day. Yeah.
Okay. And which one is your favorite?
Oh, favorite. Yeah. So I would say for us, like we got older kids now, is Epcot, and especially like after a race. And I like the countries and I like just like walking around, and yeah, that would definitely, I would say, be the favorite.
All right. So, what is your favorite resort?
Yeah, great question. Right now, my favorite resort for marathon weekend is Coronado. And probably because, so we go with like the moderate level because I am a little bit of that like hot tub snob, if you will. I like to have the whirlpool. For me, that's like whenever I stay at hotels, it's like one of those little guilty pleasures. You know, it's like I'm going to seek out a hotel that has a whirlpool because I don't have one at home. So I like to use one. So yeah, Coronado is super relaxing. So I like it because it's quieter and it's got a great pool, got a great whirlpool area, and they have a gym. They have nice foam rollers in the gym, a lot of space in there. So I can do some mobility. I can do some of those recovery things. And yeah, it is a little bit more like relaxing. You know, you might it might not have all that Disney magic maybe that you're looking for, but for me, for race weekend, I'm almost like thinking of going to like a relaxing resort as opposed to like Disney magic and mania at my resort, because I like to like keep it chill. I get enough of that in the parks, so that's definitely my go-to, and that's what I'm signed up for Wine and Dine this year. That's what I'm signed up for Marathon Weekend. So if you're staying at Coronado, let me know. Like maybe we can hang out at the whirlpool. We could like chat some strategy.
Drink
But
your
yeah,
electrolytes in the whirlpool,
exactly. Yes, absolutely. But I've done like French Quarter before. That's another good one that I stayed at. They got a whirlpool there as well. But you just have to like resist the beignets like before race day, right? Like save those for after your race, because I wouldn't try anything new before your marathon.
Yep. Well, on that note, what is your favorite snack? I know you said the Mickey pretzel, but is there anything else?
Okay, yeah. Well, Disney's known for snacks, so I'll give you another one. Dole Whip, right? Like,
Yes,
yeah,
so good.
Dole Whip. Yeah, that's good. Good carbs, easily digestible. It's non-dairy, so yeah, the
Cools you down
Dole
a
Whip is
little.
another favorite of our family, just on any Disney vacation, let alone marathon weekend, especially if it is hot. Right, it's going to cool you
Oh, yeah.
off. Yeah, that one and the Mickey pretzels are top notch.
Churros are one of our favorites, the Dole Whip and the churros, but the Buzz Lightyear churros with like the green and purple sprinkles,
Okay,
which
there
I
we
don't know
go.
if they have those in Disney World, but they have them in Disneyland. But
Okay.
yeah. All right. So what's your favorite medal that you've gotten from any of the Disney races?
Oh, good one. Yeah, I would say it's the Dopey medal. Both of the Dopey medals. I don't know if you can see them behind me. Probably not. It's probably like blurred out. But
Yeah.
I'll show you some photos of the Dopey medals. They are cool. The one that I got back in 2024 was really neat because it actually had a light and it lit up the gems. So I actually like that one a little better. But I think that was an anniversary year. So, but even last year's medal, the Dopey one was pretty darn solid. So those are probably the favorites, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. The Dopey, the Goofy one is pretty cool as well. So
Very cool. And what has been your favorite costume that you've worn at Disney?
ooh, that's a good one. I'm trying to think. I did like the Pluto one just because it was like homemade as well. So the hat was like pretty legit. It was solid. But I guess for the whole, I know we did Mr. Fredrickson and Russell, my wife and I, last year. We did where she was Moana once, and I was. What's his name? Dwayne Johnson. Maui. There we go. Where I was Maui. So yeah, but I would say like the whole family. It was the only time all four of us ran a Run Disney race. So like my younger daughter, who never runs like ever, she's a volleyball player. She does not run. She actually ran. So that was like Toy Story, and that one was cute. So I would say that one where like we were all four of us were themed out. I would say that was like the most complete costume set that we've done before.
Nice. All right. Well, you survived my rapid fire.
All right. Well, yeah, you had me sweating there. I was like, all right, well, what is she going to ask? And yeah, am I going to be able to think of these things? So if you guys have watched this far, like you've probably, realized that Disney is its own event.
Yeah, that's exactly why we stopped as coaches putting Disney runners into this generic marathon plan. Like we just can't.
Everything that we talked about today, the battery, back-to-back long runs, strength, race simulations, recovery, it's exactly what we've built in our 16-week Disney Marathon training program, because our goal isn't simply to get you across the finish line. It's to help you enjoy every magical mile, every character stop, every park, and every medal while staying healthy enough to actually celebrate when it's over. And Jess is a great example of this. She came to us with knee pain during Dopey training, worked with Coach Latoya on a personalized run and strength plan. And instead of just making it to the finish line, she completed the Dopey challenge, her first marathon, and felt great during recovery. That's exactly what we're talking about today, not just crossing the finish line, but being able to actually enjoy the entire Disney experience. Remember, guys, Disney isn't about surviving. It is about creating memories, right? You've invested a lot of time and money, right, into this. So you want to train for the experience, not just the marathon. If you want Whitney and I to guide you through every step of how this looks for the next 16 weeks, check out the link below. As the great Walt Disney once said, if you can dream it, you can do it. You've got this, my Disney friend. Thank you so much for your time today, Whitney. It was great chatting with you about all of these mistakes.
Absolutely. It's been a blast.
Yeah, and if you're wondering exactly what strength training should look like alongside this plan, you're going to want to watch this next video right here, because that's where we show you how to build a durable body every Disney runner needs. Now let's continue to grow a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running.